Okay. Fine, so we have 5 presentations, and I would like to invite Daniele Franchione from GRC to introduce the new registry.
Yes. Thank you, Anya. I'm Daniele Francioli, working at the GRC as external consultant in the Elise team. And today I'm going to present you the new version of the Inspire registry and in general of reference code. So reference code, managing reference code and sharing reference codes. This is a scenario where you have the reference code shared using a text field. So if you can see here, we have same concept but represented in different ways. So in this context, it is clear that you can see that the same concept is outlined in different ways. Now, another scenario is to use the unique identifiers. Yeah, and that's it. As you can see here, we have the same concept represented in the same ways because we have unique persistent identifiers. Managing reference code, it's basically we have 2 components. One is the registry, that is the information system on which the reference codes are maintained. Then there is the register, that is a kind of container where you have all the registers and the item associated. Then in the management of the reference code, of course, you have some operations that are the creation of the items, then you have to store it and serve it, and then the update of the item. I'm not talking about deleting the item because once you use a system like this to create persistent identifier, it's clear that you cannot delete it because they are persistent, and you can instead invalidate or retire an item if it is not yet not anymore valid. Why do we need the registers in Inspire? It's clear because we need to have a unique identifier and persistent identifiers to unambiguously reference to item, and to use this reference code, this code list in metadata, in the metadata. Currently in the Inspire registry, in the Inspire central registry, we have, as you can see here, 10 registers. And because we added the media type registered this year. And the last year we also introduced this concept of central register federation. Where basically it is a federation of registers related to the Inspire directive. It means that all the stakeholders can, if they extend the Inspire registry, they can place their registry as with the extended code list and codes in this central place that is the register federation. And the aim of this central register federation is to basically allow a federated search where if you have to use a specific code list that it is not available in the Inspire registry, you can search it, you can search for it in this central place where there can be also other stakeholder extending the registry, and so you can find probably the needed code here. The central access point for the register federation is the register of register. You can find a link here. We are going also to provide a demo tomorrow at the Inspire stand. with a detailed view of this tool. The last year we also introduced the ISO 19135 workflow for the management of the item inside the registers. Because we have a lot of register now in the central Inspire registry, and we are also having a lot of extended register in the federation. So in order to manage them, we are using this workflow provided by the ISO organization, and basically we have two roles. One is the submitting organization, that is all of the stakeholders that want to ask or ask for a change in one item, or an addition of an item in one register, or even an addition of a register in a register federation. And then there is the control body, that is the party responsible for evaluating and accepting these proposals. So now I'm going to talk you more about the core of the system, let's say the registry software. It is an open source tool for managing and sharing reference codes. It started on the Arena ISA action, and now is passed under European Location Interoperability Solution for e-government, so ELISE, in the ISA Square Action 10. This is the version that is currently available, because the registry, of course, is an open source tool that you can download and reuse, and this is the version that is available. And basically, it is a tool that takes as an input one file that is basically a CSV, process all the data, and stores it in the database. Then these data are exported as a web service, and in different formats, because we have the web service, I mean the web interface, but also XML, RDF, JSON, and other formats. So they are both human readable but also machine readable. Since the beginning, the registry was built for reuse, so it is extensible, and because basically for each register you can define whatever fields you want. So here is a list of stakeholders that are already reusing our solution, and I have also two slides from the Austrian registry, and basically we worked with them in order to deliver this version of the Inspire registry. And during the process of working on this version of the Austrian Inspire registry, we also found some, let's say, issues that we are now addressing in the new version of the registry that we are working on. For example, one of the problems was that the old version was not supporting only numeric ID, and it has already been fixed in the .1 minor version. Another example is the Inspire Italia registry. We have been working also with them to deliver this version of the registry. It is not yet published, but it is going to be published in a while, I mean in the next month. So, registry version 2. We started gathering feedback, user feedback, like the one that I showed you before, and the last year we also started a register survey in order to understand which are the features that are really useful for the stakeholders to be in the registry. And it came out that basically one of the more important feature is to stay backward compatible with the registry version 1, because since there are a lot of users that are already reusing it, it is important that with the new version there should be a really simple way to import data that are in the old version of the registry to the new version of the registry. Then another important feature is, of course, the user-friendly editing interface, because currently we have only a data import starting from a CSV file. And so it is not so user-friendly, because if you have to change something or edit something, you have to create by hand this import file. In the new version, we will implement also this editing interface. And the editing interface will include also the ISO 19135 workflow. So it is optional. I mean, you can activate it or not, but it will be available. Then there is also this better handling of the service, because currently the current version of the registry is exporting all of the files on a static file. So we have a lot of problem with performance for this during the exporting of the files. And then we will have also some other features that are API and the simple software installation. Okay, for backward compatibility, we are working on a very simple interface during the installation process that asks you if you have already a registry and you want to migrate it to the next version, to the new version. And it is just asking you common database information, and then when you start the migration, all of the data are migrated from the old version to the new version automatically. For the user-friendly editing interface, we are going to create a common editing interface, you know, to create, update, and edit the registers. Basically, there will be a browsable interface where you can click on an item and decide what to do, to edit, to add a field, or to invalidate it, supersede it, or to do whatever you can do within the ISO 19135 workflow. And also this workflow will be managed in a visual way. We will have some table with the different states and the different approval situation. Okay, then there will be also the user management, groups and role management that currently are not supported at all. I put here some mock-up, but they are provisional because we are working on it. If you want to have a more detailed example and explanation of this editing interface that we are going to provide, you can follow the demo that there will be tomorrow, I think, but you can just go to the Inspire stand and ask for it. Okay, this is another view. User-friendly installation. We have also a lot of comment about these difficulties to install and get the registry running. So since the beginning we are thinking about providing easy installation like a wizard that just specifying common configuration, it will install the registry. And then we are also working on providing just a Docker container with all the registry and all the tools that are required, like Apache Solaire or other tools together inside shipped together inside the Docker container. We are also improving the extensibility of the new version of the registry, because we are going to provide another user interface to manage the fields. Because currently to create and change the fields in the current version of the registry, it is all about working on a database script basically. And now we are also providing this extensibility capability through a user interface. In this way it is quite easy easy to adapt the model to your needs. I've already talked about this. We are going also to change the way that the service is provided, that the web service is provided. We are going to use Apache Solr, that is also more fast than how it is now. Then we are also providing the RESTful API, which is directly linked to the registry system. And another thing is that the new version of the registry will be more extensible, because currently we are going to provide a web service just with Apache Solr, but we are also thinking about some drivers to allow Sparkle endpoints or something to handle linked data. Okay. We are working on it. As you can see, we already started working on some features. So we are working on it, you know, and it will be available soon. We think that probably it will be available at the beginning of 2018. And I think you can follow us because we have these two news places where we publish our progresses, let's say, and that's it. Maybe we have some time for questions. No? No? One, if you have some questions.
Thank you, Daniel. Is there any short questions?
Yeah.
Based on a framework? I mean, it looked like a PHP.
No? Oh. No, please.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah.
Is your implementation based on a framework? It looked like a PHP with Bootstrap, but do you use a framework or just from?
No, it's Java based, the core. Then you can use because you know, the core of the registry is we have two parts. One is the management interface, and the other part is the service. The service you can use whatever you want, for example PHP, to deliver the website basically. On the management interface we have Java based yes, implementation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
In the time frame, our second speaker comes from France and is going to introduce the registry and the architecture for it in France. So please go.
You are not allowed to plug your own USB key.
Okay, thank you.
It's forbidden.
Comment on fait pour enlever ces clés? Can I quit the key, the USB key on the computer? Non? Ah. Oui.
Vous n'êtes pas allé à la preview?
Non. Non, désolé, je fais des modifs de dernière minute.
Ah, même l'ancien vous l'avez pas parce que en fait je sais pas si ça marche par USB pas comme ça. Il fallait vraiment passer par la preview pour moi.
Ok.
Ah, comme on vous a pas trouvé avant en fait, du coup on n'a pas pu vous demander.
Bon, ok.
Est-ce que ça a pas détecté la clé USB?
C'est celle-là la clé.
Ah,
En fait,
ok.
ok.
Vous pouvez essayer de...
Le problème c'est que je peux pas la mettre avec ça. Pas forcé. Si. Ok.
C'est bon?
Ouais, c'est bon. Okay, sorry. My name is Etienne Tafouro. I work for BRGM, which is the French Geological Survey. BRGM is in charge of the French geocatalogue for the Ministry of Environment in France. The geocatalogue project aims to provide access to metadata, but also to inspire code lists for France within a registry, a national registry. So my presentation is about the organization and implementation of an Inspire registry in France. This is the outline of my presentation. After a quick reminder of the framework about registries and a register, I will present the organization and the methodology for implementing a French registry. Then I give you an example of a BRGM register code list. Then I explain what is the BRGM approach to registry implementation. For this work, we have tested two registry softwares. Registry, which has been presented by Daniele previously, and UK GovLD, which is developed by UK government. And finally, I'll make some conclusions and perspectives. What about the framework about registries? Article 10 of the directive requires that any informations, including data, codes, and technical classifications, must be available to public authorities and third parties. This has led to the decision to create a French registry within geocatalogue.fr. But Inspire includes only one legal obligation related to registers. The code lists mandated by the regulation, which have extensions, must be published in registers at a member state level. But we have other purposes than the publication of code lists. This is the case in France. For example, we can need to have a single repository of all organizations, data providers. This slide shows the organization with a national registry within geocatalogue.fr, which will contain some code lists and organizations, a list of organizations. And this schema shows how this national registry have to put these code lists. We have different organizations in France, more or less structured. We have, for our case, the BRGM is a data producer and a data publisher of several data. We are managing a lot of database. We covered the geology term, mineral resources, but also other themes like soil. You can note that some themes, inspired themes, can be covered by several organizations. And the challenge is to implement registers and registries at a community level, and to link them with the national registry. And the final challenge is to link a national registry with Inspire registry. This situation leads to identify a list of priority themes. You have the list on this slide. First, the utility and government services, because of the recent open data works in France. Secondly, the land use and land cover themes, because we have several local databases, and we want to converge to only one national database. And next we have area management, the diversity themes, and finally the themes like BRGM themes, geology, mineral resources, etc. In our methodology, we are identifying methods and workflows for example, for designing URI, which is a requirement for implementing registry, for managing registers. We have tested, we are testing registry open source softwares. This is in progress, registry and UK GovLD. I will present the features. The objective is to publish the French registry in a beta version by the end of 2017. And the challenge is to set up of registers for extended Inspire code list and link to the central Inspire code list register. Here is an example of code list registers for BRGM. It corresponds to the description of lithology of rocks in a borehole database. And you see that we have several, to describe the lithology, we have several code lists, and these code lists are hierarchical. Here is a screenshot of these registers using the registry software. What about our approach to this implementation? First, our approach is in accordance with the document best practices for registers and registries and technical guidelines for the entire Register Federation. It came from the MIWP6 works, and you have the list below the list of these best practices. But the first best practice is to use well-defined roles, responsibilities, and procedures for register management. For the BRGM, we are defining an organization to identify the roles and the responsibilities. You have typically you have a register owner and register manager. This is the BRGM. We have some group of experts which corresponds to submitting organizations. They can propose changes to the content of a register. And we have a group of experts to control, corresponding to the control body, which can decide, which can validate the proposal for changes. The registry manager is the IT division for BRGM, for example, and the register user is anyone. The second best practice is to use resolvable URIs as identifiers and registers and register items. We are for BRGM. The URI are structured with DNS resource.brgm.fr, and we have for each item, for example, lithology, we have an identifier, and for each register and for each item in each register. Beyond the register requirements, a procedure for managing URI, for example, to reference datasets, scientific publications, and so on, is being created for BRGM. It is in progress. Okay, we define code list and code list value. Each code list value can be linked between them. The statuses are the statuses which are implemented in the registry software. And you can see in this tab that the values of the statuses are compatible between UKGovLD and registry. And they come from ISO 19135. Okay, do not delete items. We use the good status. The format, we have several formats to export in registry and UKGovLD. Some formats are similar, but we see that, for example, the RDF format has not the same structure between registry and UKGovLD. Can be a problem. Okay, both support content negotiation. Both support multilanguage. And we have compared the main features of the two softwares, and we see that that the installation and configuration procedure is not trivial for registry, and the two softwares are flexible to customization, but it is not trivial too. Okay. In conclusions, code lists and organizations registers have already been implemented, but they are not published. This is expected by the end of 2017. And the tests of the registry and UKGov LD have shown that both respond to a need of publishing Inspire code lists. The CSV format is useful for importing data because the data providers generally use this format to manage their code lists. And but an editing mode, a friendly editing mode, is very needful. Okay. An important point for us, for BRGM, is that UKGovLD seems to be more adapted for a linked data approach. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this good overview of how the register is organized and implemented. Sorry for interrupting or stopping right now. We are running out of time, and that's why I would not allow a question right now. Please go to Etienne after the session. I think you will be around for the... Yeah?
Yes.
Fine.
Can I say just a comment on the last thing that you said on the linked data approach?
Ah, yes.
Yeah, because you know the new version of the registry is going also to support Spark to endpoint. So
yes. Okay.
It is more.
It's a good point. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just it.
Thank you. And I would like to invite our third speaker, Guillaume Suyer.
Guillaume Suyer. Thank you.
I'm not very good in French, so and he's going to discuss a new search paradigm.
What have you done with the computer, Etienne? It's all gone.
Yeah, that's the point. You don't stick to the rules.
Exactly. It's not Inspire way of doing things. Sorry.
Français? Non. Français? German?
Oui, français.
D'accord. Donc on est Madrid 2.
Ouais, et j'ai pris. Ah, c'est Wednesday
mercredi.
aujourd'hui. Ouais, j'ai compris le jour, désolé.
Alors,
14h.
14.
C'est bon, on va y aller.
Et
Ouais.
voilà.
Merci, pardon. Désolé.
Je suis avec ça.
Hi everyone, I'm Guillaume Stuart from a little company in Toulouse, south of France, which is called Neo Geo Technology. And I will adopt here a more user point of view than the two previous presentations we just saw. And I'm going to talk about ElasticSearch engine and using it as an Inspire metadata backend. Actually, I think you all know that Inspire infrastructures rely massively on services, allowing people to search, view, and download features. It's all about searching, viewing, and maybe downloading features in data sets. And if you have ever experienced this kind of service, and I hope you did, as you are in the conference dedicated to this kind of services, you probably noticed that when you need some data you don't really know the location of, or you don't even know maybe the existence of, you have first to find the correct catalog in which you can hope to find it. Then you have to provide the correct terms and keywords and use the write registry, if you know it. You have then to read the metadata the system may have respond you with. And you have to inspect it and maybe find in it URLs for view services or download services, and then use another tool with these URLs to try to view the data or download the data. And hopefully, after a while, maybe you can get what you wanted first. And actually, it reminds me a bit of a design which is not up to date anymore. It reminds me a bit of what was Yahoo at the beginning. Yahoo was a registry of websites with little forms filled by people or on a computer, and you had to search for a website using a registry with the good keywords. And for example, if you search for restaurants, you go in restaurants and then maybe a town and then maybe a type of restaurant. And sometimes you could find a website for a restaurant. Actually, so Yahoo was a directory fed by real people with website metadata. And I think now it's maybe time to switch to Google, because the basic needs for human being looking for data set is just a text input. You can't ask real people, so not machines, not experts like maybe you guys are, but you can't really ask real people, like my mother, for example, to fill in a form something more than just a text input. And what happens next has to stay behind the scene. It is important that it exists, but it has to stay behind the scene, like searching metadata, in data, in keywords, themes, registries, compile, organize, mix the results, rank the results, expose, facet, abstract. All of these tasks are really important to provide good search results, but needs to stay behind the scene. And actually, oh, sorry, yeah, I didn't run it in a. Sorry, I'm not really used to this. Yeah, it's bigger. Yeah. A comprehensive Inspire search engine should rely on Inspire services, mostly CSW and WFS, of course. It should add search profiling to dedicated search themes. It should add results on the smart display. It should offer an API, of course. It should be fast and reliable and work seamlessly for users. And it is, in my opinion, the most important point. And actually, I think the tools are available now. Most of the functionalities listed before are available in a popular NoSQL tool like Elasticsearch, maybe in another one like Solar. I know a little bit less than Elasticsearch, but I know it's quite comparable tool. Things like indexing, ranking, facets, fuzzy search, composite searches, API are available out of the box in this kind of tools. So the really need is a dedicated manager app to reference services in it, to harvest the services, and to give the people the power to re-harvest the services and search it in a powerful manner. So we did it at NeoGeo Technologies. We call it OneGeo. And actually, it's an open source comprehensive framework for managing, harvesting, indexing, search profiling, weak resting, CSW and WFS services contents. It's built in Python on top of Elasticsearch, and it offers an IPA. The basic workflow in OneGeo is to use indexation of many CSW or WFS sources, and to build on these indexes, on these Elasticsearch indexes, the choice of the items or the fields in the sources you want to really index and you want to be the system able to look for. And then you build search profiles, which will be able to use one or many indexes and you define the way you want to use these indexes, if you want a fuzzy search on a term, or if you want an exact match on a number. And then a search profile is giving a dedicated entry point in the API. And this entry point can be used by any web client on the internet. Wanjo intends to make geographic search easy because you don't always know what you're looking for. And we did it exactly, we did a client which looks a little bit like Google. It's able to render geographic data because it harvests WFS features, both in text and geographic features. So you can search and see and download afterwards if you want geographic features. It's able to mix several fields to fulfill requests. As you can see, it's written in French, but I guess you can guess that the terms here are matching several fields and different fields. It has an administration panel which allows you to select the items you want to make available to the search engine or not. And so you can have technical fields you don't want to expose to the search engine, and you just hide it. It's still written in the index, but it is not available for the search. And you can both index metadata and data all together. And what is interesting is that you can index a full CSW catalog, and for each of the metadata in the catalog, if it has inside a WFS service available, it will harvest this service and make its content a new data source. And after a while, you will have a full catalog, metadata and data in your Wanjo infrastructure, and you will be able to make searches in it, the search items being researched both in metadata and data fields. And you can choose to have either metadata results only. Even if it's a data match, you will have not the data as a result, but the metadata of the data, and where you can see where it comes from. Or you can have directly data results, which allows you maybe to directly retrieve the features and the geographic dimension of it. At a glance, it's a bit technical here, but at a glance, you start from the API. From a user point of view, you start from the API, and you use a search profile. A search profile defines which indexes are selected for the search. So here, in this little example, you are pointing to 2 different indexes, and for the data, and 1 for metadata. And then each index uses analyzer, dedicated analyzer for each item present in the index. So you can have full text search, fuzzy search, exact match search, things like that. And you have an aggregation layer on the way back, which will be able to pick the correct metadata record for the data it has found, and then the results are exposed to the client. Okay. That's it. I have no conclusion, so I prefer to give you the opportunity to ask for some questions. Thank you.
Are there questions to Leon about this tool? Wait for them.
Probably we will have lots of results from that queries, I think. I don't know.
It depends.
But how do you sort them?
You have the way to make when you build the index and when you select which item you're going to put it into the index. Really, you have a ranking score, the possibility to add a priority on the item. It's important for the case, for example, for a city name. A city name, you can find it, for example, on every address of the city. So maybe you will put a very low priority here. For the city itself in another data set to go out on the top level of the result. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now we are crossing the border from France to Germany. Our next speaker is Matthias Dorn, and he is talking about an analysis of Inspire code list he has done within his company.
Now we have to close this here. Is that? Bueno. Okay. Good. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the revision of the Inspire code lists and their consequences for the MIC process. I am working with the LBG, which is the State Authority for Mining, Energy and Geology of Lower Saxony, and we are located in Hanover. The State Authority has major 2 or 3 tasks it works on. It's the administrative mining authority in the state. It provides data and takes care of all geological affairs in the state of Lower Saxony. The LBG has quite a lot of Inspire relevant data. Certainly there are an enormous amount of geological data, including those of hydrogeology and of geophysics. From the natural risk area part, we have mass movements, subversions, sinkholes, and very small earthquakes. From the energy resources, you should consider that Lower Saxony is the state that has the most reserves of oil and gas in Germany at all. On the mineral resources, we have especially non-metallic resources like sand, gravel, peat, and salt. And soil is important to Lower Saxony as well. Lower Saxony is the 2nd biggest agricultural state in Germany. So there should be an emphasized interest to provide data for Inspire. As you see in bold, I said it should be. We will come back later to that, why I say should. As you know, a very core element of all the work on Inspire are the data specifications. These data specifications are structured over all annexes and all clusters the same. They are structured in accordance with pure information theory aspects because they're primarily used to handle the geodata digitally. It is an information matter affair. It deals with the fact how to present and how to qualify and how to deal with information. That's the point of the data specification. And one core element of the data specifications are the code lists. The descriptions of the code lists themselves are in purely tabular matter. Here it is virtually impossible to identify every structure within the code list. You cannot recognize what kind of parent a term has and how many children it has, for example, and how the code list is from the subject it deals with is structured. For example, in the application scheme geology, we have altogether 897 terms that are described in 14 code lists. There is a graphic presentation on the EU server that is either in a dendrogram or in radial display, and I give you the source how to find it there, but you cannot make use in a way to customize this display or to customize even the code lists, and you cannot integrate other languages. It's only provided in English. However, I've given you here, it pops out, the type of description of a term. This is hydrocarbon production, and you see it provides the name, it provides a definition, and it gives the parent. So actually the information required is given in the code list, but it's very difficult to find a structure inside the code list. So we thought it would be important to find a graphical presentation of the code list, one you can work with actually, to see whether the code lists are already provided in a manner that you can find that the matter discussed being substantial. So what did we do? We downloaded the code list in the JSON format from the EU server. We downloaded it with the German text and with the English one, both English versions, and the table that came out you can see here. We gave the ID, this is the common link, then we have the English and the German label, we have the English and the German definition, description is empty here. It gives the parent the ID and the legal status. As you will see later in the code list, and the mind map, sorry, the terms spread out in an n-ary tree. That means each element has a maximum of one parent and any number of children. And it is exactly that what we want to find out how that is. We then took this with a Python script to an array pre-ordered tree traversal algorithm, and that was implemented. Those of you who are interested in these algorithms, you can contact me. You will find it in the publication that is in the journal reviewing process now. If you already want to know it, just please contact me. We will be glad to give it to you. And what came out eventually then after this Python process was a TXT file. And what you see here is now, as in, for example, for the Boole purpose value of the geological scheme, is a reordering of the code list in a way that you see a red number above the term, and the figure itself gives you the actual hierarchical position of it. So you see the Boole purpose value is the core, and number 1 is the exploration raw material, number 2 on the second level, number 3 on the third level. And this text file that we produced for all the code lists of all the application schemes that we had to deal with, all these text files now were transported into a mind map program. What came out eventually is this. Here you see a mind map of the code list of Boole purpose value as it is presented in the data specifications of Inspire. This is actually nothing new. It is just a graphical presentation, but it is a presentation that you can now customize and change, enhance, or if you need so, correct. You should read it like this. In the core, in the dark blue, you find the subject, Boole purpose value. In the light blue background, bold type is the hierarchical first level. The bold type is the second level, and the light gray is on the third level. Here you can see now the hierarchical structure of this code list. After we have done and achieved that for the lists of all the application schemes that we were dealt with, we turned first to those of the application scheme geology, and we found out that of the 14 code lists, 9 of them seems to have deficits. I don't want to read them all this to you, but after we checked these, we found out that we had to look again at the structure and the content of the code list in a more detailed way to see as in how far they need still any further discussion. There is one thing that I would like to explain to you in detail. For example, that's the code list of the lithology value. This code list has the most deficiencies of all the lists in our point of view. It were so many that we can't be presented here. In the area of the plutonite rocks, the Streckeisen classification system was applied. However, in many other rocks areas, there was no consistent structure available. A number of terms either had neither had a parent nor did they have children. The metamorphic rocks were should be a main group, but not secondarily subordinated. and for the sedimentary rocks that are especially important in North Germany and Lower Saxony, there were so many assigned inconsistencies that they have to be restructured in our point of view entirely. I give you a revision, now a graphic description of the revision of the borehole purpose value that you saw before. The terms in the mind map that are printed in red are those that were rearranged. We attached 4 level 2 members from exploitation raw material to exploration energy resources. And we subordinated water quality management and groundwater level monitoring to the hydrogeological survey. This is only a rearranged mind map. It's not a mind map including new terms, which is a difference. Now, this is another mind map. This is a mind map, a revised mind map of the code list of natural hazard category values. In this application scheme, natural risk, essential content that flowed in from the LBG even at the commencement of the work on this data structure in the INSPIRE process was unfortunately not adopted. These terms entered in this revised mind map, are re-entered in this revised mind map, and you can read them in red, and they are supplemented again by the LBG into the MIG process. Now, how do we continue and how shall we go on? As you can see, we had 2 kinds of revisions. One of those is restructured, and the other one is where we can say we have added new terms. Changes to and recommendations of the original code list were filled in that table system that the EU provides to introduce them and upload them into the MIG process. We have done with those tables for the application scheme in already of those code lists that we think that should be revised. As a matter of fact, we heard this morning especially that there is actually not yet an entirely fixed way to manage these corrected code lists, especially in the field of geology. We don't have a plan, a time frame and a procedure of how these corrections and these proposals will be dealt eventually in the MIG process. And I think it will be an important point of this conference to see if we can find a solution of how this corrections can be further discussed. I want to finish with some recommendations and conclusions. As I gave you earlier a figure, there are 897 terms defined in the application scheme geology. In comparison, there has been recently added the symbol key geology, which is more or less a list of all the geological terms available in Germany, and they count about 12,890 terms. So, from this comparison, you can easily understand that LBEG and all other German institutions involved in geological work for INSPIRE will have to face a dramatic simplification of all the data that they have and they provide. And this implication is quite of a considerable measure. So consequently, it must be emphasized, and I say this very clearly, that the provision of INSPIRE-conform data or data sets in the long term, at least for the LBG, will only then be of importance and not only be a kind of thing that has to be done because it is demanded by, if this gap between the knowledge that we have and the knowledge we can provide in INSPIRE will be smaller and smaller eventually. I do not want to sound negative. Let's make it very clear. We have achieved a lot already in INSPIRE. INSPIRE has made big steps in the right direction, and that what INSPIRE already has done is quite remarkable. But, as I said in the beginning, at the moment we should do it, and certainly we will do it. But we will be much more glad to do it if we can see that all the information and the data and the knowledge that we have regarding the appendices and the application schemes to which we can provide data will be better and more precisely represented by the differentiated and better structure of the code lists to an improved representation of the data, for example, that the LBG can provide. Thank you very much. Shall be glad to take questions.
Thank you, Matthias, for this thorough analysis, and I already see
Okay, good afternoon. I have two interviews for two reasons. I'm the MIG liaison that take into account their shines, so I'm the responsible for these topics. And also I'm part of the control body of a registry, so I have to, in some way, monitoring this activity. I just interviewed to explain which is the workflow to propose some modification. Then I invited you, if you are here Friday, to join with me and Tim Duffy at lunchtime, after lunchtime for thematic cluster meeting.
I talked to him already. I know that to upload them into the thematic cluster, we did this as it is provided.
Yeah, but you put in the thematic cluster,
yes.
And the thematic cluster facilitator discussed with me and with the Robert Thomas, that is the member of the commission that take into account the thematic cluster. And we defined if this proposal have an agreed agreement of the community, we proposed to the MIG-T to have a change.
Yeah. Mm.
So anyway, I explained for all, yeah. Because you introduced these questions. And then if we consider infeasible, the MIG-T submit to the MIG-P for final endorsement.
Yep.
If you propose some changing that touch the code that is EU legal bounding, this is quite complex because the procedure is quite long. It's not stopped to make P. I have to go to the INSPIRE committee for changing regulation. And this is quite big problem issue that we have. We can do, but we have a very tangible problem that we have solved in this way. Okay? Mm. Just to clarify for all, which is more or less the procedure.
Yeah. I did not, you're totally right. We have certainly complied with all the necessary facilities to do so. We are pretty well aware that if it is of legal status, that it is quite a thing to change this. But eventually, I mean, nothing is written in stone. We have to look at the scientific substance as it is at the moment. It is quite good, but there's nothing that cannot be made better. Whatever administrative forces it takes, we should not be afraid to try it and eventually to achieve it. I know that at the moment with some people missing in the job and so it takes a while, but eventually we should not miss the opportunity to do so and to improve the code lists and to improve these things, because it eventually will only make INSPIRE better. And we have just learned this morning from the plenary speakers how important INSPIRE is, and it almost infiltrates into the and all these digital new frameworks that the EU will enable. So from my point of view, even if it provokes or initiates quite an administrative work, it should not be a reason not to do so. I think we have to make that what is good. If we can make it better, then we have to make it better.
Thank you for this encouragement to look at the processes. I'm also in the thematic cluster, and I know it is sometimes a long time.
Yep. What I may suggest, just one moment, I just suggest it would be good that we get sometimes a kind of response of reflection that there is something going on, and at the moment we don't get anything at all except of the discussion. So maybe that could be a first